LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa is the target of a recall campaign.
A group of former mayoral candidates and grassroots activists are behind the effort. KCAL 9 political reporter Dave Bryan joins us now from Van Nuys with details on this. Dave.
Well, Sylvia, Sharon, we're at the Van Nuys City Hall Annex, as you said, where we spoke just a few moments ago to two leaders of a movement called Recall City Hall. It's one of a number of groups that have sprung up in the last few months as a result of the city budget crisis, the DWP rate hike, and what some are calling the fiasco at City Hall. A lot of fingers pointing in terms of who's to blame for this, some of them pointing at the city council, others at Mayor Villaraigosa. On the same day Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa delivered his State of the City address, political activists David Hernandez and Augusto Bassani launched a campaign to recall the mayor. Hernandez, who's a frequent political candidate himself and has run for mayor, charges Mayor Villaraigosa failed to heed warnings years ago that the national recession would have a crippling effect on the city.
When we look at the amount of service that are being cut, the layoffs that are taking place, the uncontrolled spending, and just the total abuse of the position.
But to get the recall on the ballot, Hernandez and his supporters will have to collect more than 243,000 signatures in 120 days. A daunting task under the best of circumstances. But Hernandez says sometimes these grassroots, long-shot recall campaigns surprise people.
I remember when the Gray Davis recall first started. I was circulating petitions over at the Studio City Farmers Market, and people looked at me like I had two heads and I should be committed.
The campaign is named Recall City Hall, and it's out to make a serious point, according to its supporters, that citizens can take back control of government.
It's not a matter of frustration. It's more of a matter of people accepting the responsibility that if there is going to be change, if there's going to be accountability and transparency, they can no longer just sit around and complain.
Former LA Daily News editor-in-chief Ron Kaye, now a political activist and blogger, is not taking a position for or against the recall.
Well, I think the recall movement is its own movement. And everybody's watching it to see if they really can get traction. But my own theory of it is there's 1,000 cells of energy, and everything that everybody does to rebuild the civic culture and the civic community of Los Angeles is making a difference.
Kaye is taking a different approach to shaking up city government. He's formed a group called Clean Sweep Campaign with the goal of electing city council members who he says will stand up for clean, effective government and political reform.
This city's in jeopardy, serious jeopardy in its future, and its mayor made his State of the City speech tonight, and in the end all he could promise was the sun will always shine in Los Angeles.
In the end, Kaye and Hernandez don't necessarily agree with each other on how best to proceed. But they do both say the recent chaos at City Hall on the fallout from the nearly $500 billion budget deficit and the DWP rate hike fiasco has awakened the slumbering public and fueled the outrage.
In the end, we can blame the politicians all we want, but we elect them, we let them serve, and it's up to us to change it and bring a more democratic and responsive system.
Now, some people who are sympathetic to these movements say even if they do nothing other than engage and energize the citizens of LA and show them that there is a way to channel their anger and frustration into a more positive course of action, then they will have been successful. In Van Nuys, Dave Bryan, KCAL 9 News.
All right, Dave, thank you. So the recall campaign comes for the mayor just as he delivers a dire warning about the future of Los Angeles. Mayor Villaraigosa's grim assessment of the state of the city predicts it will take years of painful cuts to turn things around. KCAL 9's Mark Coogan has that part of the story from City Hall.
This is not a budget that reflects why I ran for office.
Mayor Villaraigosa began a somber address by declaring the city must face a new economic reality, and it will be reflected in budget cuts he called painful and severe.
This is the new economic reality. It's pitting the cruel irony of the growing needs of Angelenos against the declining capacity of their own government to answer their needs.
The mayor's proposed city budget has a deficit of $485 million. Cuts, including 750 layoffs, save $176 million. Furloughs of up to 26 days save another $63 million. Revenue increases add $154 million to the general fund. One-time expenditures and freezes make up the difference.
So, I issue another challenge. The mayor's office, the city council, labor leaders, our city workers, we must all share in the sacrifice to stop the cuts in services and prevent further layoffs. We must all be willing to take cuts in our pay. Begins with me.
Despite proposing the layoffs, Mayor Villaraigosa proposed continuing to hire police to keep pace with retirements. But the fire department budget is reduced by 2% through staffing reductions. Union pickets outside had this for the mayor.
To me, it's a budget that makes Los Angeles less safe. It's not a public safety budget. You know, I always hear that they're focusing on public safety, but in this case, it's really not. It's taking more firefighters off the street every day.
As a measure of the grim atmosphere inside, the mayor spoke for 27 minutes and was interrupted by applause only once when he said that LA is the safest that it's been since the 1950s, the Eisenhower administration. In downtown Los Angeles, at the Police Administration Building, Mark Coogan, KCAL 9 News.